Hey everybody, well, I have with me Ron Carlivati, the head writer of Days of Our Lives and Days of Our Lives Beyond Salem. And Ron, you're just coming off an Emmy victory. This is your third one, correct?
Yeah, number 3.
So you're back east now, and I saw you at the Emmys briefly.
Yes.
What was your night like, and what did you think of the whole thing, like being with everybody and then taking the stage and winning the Emmy?
I mean, it really was a bizarre deja vu because like the last time I was at the Emmys was in Pasadena, and I was like getting out of the car service in front, and I'm like, this is weird, like a weird deja vu. It was like, getting out of the car, and there's and there were people from my show. I mean, there's Greg Vaughn and there's Ari, and then I walk inside, and I remember it was like, I think last time, like Laura Wright and Wes were like maybe the first people I saw, or maybe like it was just like, oh, this is all just happening all over again. Like, but there's everybody dressed up, and it's just a weird deja vu. But very like in a good way. Like it was so much fun to be there.
So they call your name. You how did you feel about going into it? I think you felt that you had a strong chance of winning it this year,
It
right?
was weird. I think I might have said to you, it was like, people are saying, you're nominated twice. And I'm like, oh, you have a 50% chance of winning. I'm like, and a 50% chance of losing. So it's funny, like it doesn't make you more secure necessarily. It's like, oh, I'm 2 out of the 4, but that doesn't mean anything. Only one can win, So, and I didn't think much of it, but I'll have to say, like, you could probably tell when I got up there, like I was nervous. Like it wasn't until I got there.
You were nervous, I thought. And what I thought was so touching is, and I know you, and you wanted to give Elizabeth Snyder her due, and you were emotional about it. I think you got to the, I'm going to say this now.
And the reason I like, Ken gave me crap about reading my speech, but like, because Ken is a very good public speaker. Like Ken just knows generally what he wants to say, and he can talk, and it's very eloquent. And it's funny, I get comfortable once like the 30 seconds is over, like, oh, now I like it up here, but it's over, in the blink of an eye. And I see how so many of these people are so poised when they get up there and so calm. And over the years I've gotten better, but this time I wrote, like, I wanted to say something a little different for if it was Beyond Salem than if it was Days. So I wrote down 2 different things on my phone, and one said Beyond Salem and one said Days of Our Lives. So I was like, the only way I'm going to keep this straight is if I just write it down. And it does calm your nerves a little bit, knowing, because my mind just like goes blank.
Well, I think it is better to have something written down, because I've seen so many people go up there and try to do it.
Yeah. No, it's like, look, when some actor wins, like, and they're very excited and they're bubbly and they're nervous, like it can be very charming. Like with me, I don't know. So, but anyway, for me, it was just easier to just like read the thing, and that was it. But I'm sitting there, and it was mostly kind of like seats in rows, but then in the front there were like some tables with 4 people. So I was with Albert, Ken, and Suzanne Rogers. So, we're sitting, and category by category is going by. I'm like, when are they going to do writing, and GH starts like winning everything, they're winning like those actor awards right in a row. And then they won for directing, and of course I'm sitting next to Albert, and he worked so hard this year on 2 different shows. And of course I wanted him to win. And so you're starting to just slowly go, oh, I guess we're not going to win anything. And so really there were very few awards left. And I'm thinking like, all right, like probably it's going to be General Hospital. So I'm just trying to like gear myself up for that. And then Ken takes this like silver dollar that he keeps in his pocket, and he goes, here, touch this. And so I touch it, and then he goes, no, put it in your pocket. So I put it in my pocket, the category comes up, and then all of a sudden they say Days of Our Lives. So, you're like, oh my God, I got to get up there. So go up, it was great. Like I said, it was a blur. I think I looked down at like Jim Reynolds up smiling at me, and that was like the one thing that kind of like calmed me down. Like, yeah. And then, so make the speech, they take you off stage, you know, they usher you off. And so then I missed lead actor and lead actress, because by the time you go take a picture, sign for your award, do press, you know, I wasn't in my seat till the last 2 minutes before best show. So I missed actor and actress. And I get back and I quickly like give Ken the coin back. So I was like, but I started to feel, okay, maybe the tide has turned. We just won writing. We could win best show now. So I give Ken the, you know, the coin, and I'm very, you know, I'm all excited. And then of course it was General Hospital, you know, and we did not win. So it was a disappointment, but it was like, of course I'm thrilled, but then I feel bad that like I'm, you know, I'm the only award that we're bringing home, but it made, and then Ken said, I want you to keep the coin, and gave it back to me. So, which was like really, really sweet. So, but it was kind of great, not just for me, of course, there's the excitement of winning for yourself, but like going to the party and being for Days of Our Lives and getting to walk in and everybody cheers, and we, you know, we have some gold. So I kind of went to the venue, you know, the Natus party first, and was like socializing there a little bit. And then essentially what people did is went, had a drink, had something, then we had little cars taking us over to the Days party. And so when I got there, it was kind of like in full swing. So then like I walked in with the Emmy, and then that's the picture that you saw, you know, everybody kind of cheering at that moment. So it made it festive and great for Days. I wish we won more, but it, you know, we won something. So there was something to everybody to rally around, you know.
I just want to say, for those that may, the Elizabeth Snyder moment, I'm going back to that for a second.
Yeah.
I don't know if the audience, you know,
Yeah.
understood. So can you just explain for everybody?
When I got to Days, Betsy was already on the team, and Betsy Snyder was one of the breakdown writers, you know, and she's worked on several soaps. She had like a great career. But when I got to Days, she was there, and I knew her name, but I only met her, you know, when I got to Days of Our Lives. And so, you know, we met in person whenever I was in LA, but over the years, but mostly we were on the phone together, you know, hours and hours every week, you know, so we were close and we were good friends. And then it wasn't until last year that she reached out to me very suddenly and said, look, I have a medical thing going on and I have to go away to get treatment. And I need to stop like very soon. So, and she said, you know, depending on how the treatment comes, you know, I don't know how long it will take. And I'm like, Betsy, don't worry about it. Go do what you need to do. We'll find someone. And then, you know, your seat is always being held here for you. And unfortunately, what happened with Betsy is she was diagnosed with, I don't want to share too much, it's her, you know, personal life, but she was diagnosed with cancer. And in the course of treatment, she discovered there was an underlying, like a second cancer that was more aggressive. So the initial prognosis was much better, but within like just a few short months, she had passed away, and it was really, really tragic. She was only like around 60 years old. She was like just a lovely person, so full of life, talked about her husband and her kids and, you know, just her future, like, you know, what she was planning to do after this and her retirement. And she loves Martha's Vineyard, where she spent a lot of time. And, you know, I was just like looking forward to, like, for her like next chapter when she decided to retire and all of that. And she just kind of got robbed of that. But, you know, on a happier note, like it was one of her the two episodes I submitted, she wrote one of them.
Oh,
yeah, it was her work.
I did not know that. That's amazing.
Yeah, one of the two outlines was written by her. It was the day with Doug and Marlena, in her office. That was Betsy's episode. You know, I heard from her husband. He sent me a message. He sent a picture of him and his two kids that they were celebrating and watching. And she had one for another show, maybe General Hospital, I'm not sure. But he had said to me, her husband Clay said, I really need you to win because I want to give one to my son and one to my daughter. And so, and we did win. And he's like, you know, now he's like, I have got
an amazing, beautiful story to
Yeah.
this. I mean, I feel like there was also somebody watching over to, you know, make sure that, because
it's quite amazing. I still kind of cannot believe that she's not with us. It's really unbelievable. So it was great, and it made it feel very special that we won, and also that it was her, you know, because by the time we wrote Beyond Salem, she'd already passed away. So I was kind of pushing secretly for days it over so that it would be Betsy's, that would be her episode.
That's an amazing story. And like you said, this was your third win for writing.
Yeah.
You had won for One Life, and you had won for Days.
And one for Days.
Now you have 3 Emmys. Do you feel like the reward, like, you know, is the writing the reward for you, like all the creativity that you get to put into it? Because you are so unique in the way you write for soaps. You know, it's very different. You bring the fun, you bring the knowledge, you've got all these twists and turns that I think are just so, you know, a lot of inside stuff that the fans enjoy.
Yeah.
Do you feel the pressure to keep upping the game for yourself?
Yeah, and look, you know, it's a thrill to win, of course. It's like, you know, it's better than not winning. You know, it's like, but you know, once the excitement dies down and everything, it's like, oh, you know, it's super fun in the moment to win, and it's nice to have that like on your resume. But on the whole, like, one thing that I liked about this is like, okay, you know, when we won the first time for Days, it was for, you know, we did the police shooting. JJ was planning to commit suicide. It was like very heavy, dramatic stuff. And, you know, like, you know, more like an Emmy bait kind of episode. And here, Ryan and I sat there and thought, well, the big story that we told last year was a devil possession story. Am I going to look for 2 other, you know, dramatic episodes, EJ and Sami breaking up or whatever? And we just decided, no, let's go for what was our main story, and just for better or for worse, that's what we'll submit. And I felt very gratified that we could win for a story like that, it doesn't have to be a super heavy dramatic story. It doesn't have to be that. It was a story that had a camp factor, that it was a story that had a fun factor, that could win, you know, because it was entertaining, you know. And not to say that it didn't have, like, because what I said too on the red carpet, or, you know, after, was it did have the underpinnings of a love story, you know, John trying to save his wife from the devil. You know, one of the episodes we had on Thanksgiving was, like, to me, very moving when Julie, you know, stands up to, like, Satan himself to say, you can try to take Marlena, take Doug, you can't take the love of this town and of this family, you know. And so ultimately, yes, it had that supernatural element, but it was grounded in a very real kind of like emotional story about love.
What do you think of Bill and Susan Seaforth in that story? I thought they were so great. And I'm like, how can you not acknowledge veterans that have been with it for so long, and they still were probably 2 of the greatest aspects of the story.
No, between really, yes, eventually it became a real story about everybody. But at the beginning, an ensemble, but at the beginning, it was Doug, Julie, Marlena, John, you know. And I was just so thrilled to, like, use Doug as the way into the story, and that he was so game, and that so was Susan, and, you know, and they're religious people too, and they had their.
Was that your idea, to have Bill be the vessel that would be?
Well, they came to me and said, like, let's do this story, and I'm like, okay. And then they said, well, how does the devil come back? Why? How? You know, how does it? And I just got this image of Doug, like innocent Doug, you know, where it's like inside him and then jumps into Marlena. And I pitched it to Albert, and he's like, he really liked it, but he was like, I got to, and I didn't even know at the time that when they do the eyes and everything, that it's contact lenses. I just assumed it was like special effects. Like, I didn't know they actually have to put these lenses in their eyes. And he said, I'm going to have to make sure that Bill is comfortable, putting these, and they're just regular contact lenses. They're just colored, but they talked to Bill and Susan. No, absolutely. They were excited. And I just thought there was something like so sinister about coming in through the oldest vulnerable, this vulnerable man you see him, Bill, he's like healthy as a horse, but you think the 96-year-old guy is like that could be the way in, that he could be vulnerable. And that's what gave me the idea to sort of do it to sort of try to trick the audience that we were doing a dementia story.
Yeah.
And that it would be this twist that, no, it's the devil.
Now you've got Beyond Salem Chapter 2 about to premiere.
Yeah.
So July 11th through the 15th, we're going to see an episode drop each day. Right. Getting to make another one of these, another streaming series. When you were tasked with, we're going to do this again, and crafting the story, were you like, did you kind of know what you were going to do, or did they give you specifics were you going to have Kristian and Peter and
yeah, no, they did. They originally came to us right after the first one, and they wanted 5 more, and it was just to try to get 5 more done by Christmas was just going to be too taxing on the whole production system. But Albert didn't want to say no to Peacock and NBC, so he said, I don't think we can in this time frame deliver 5 more, but what if we did a Christmas special and then punt the next 5 into 2022? So they said yes, and so it was just easier to do the 1 episode than do 5 more and in our production schedule. So that was kind of fun, because then we got to do the 5 do the Christmas special. We came up with this idea to kind of make it a little bit of like a Hallmark movie, but with our own days twist. And that was fun. And you didn't have to worry about the continuity because it was all a fantasy. And it was fun to say, oh, Kristen's married to John and all that kind of stuff. So we did that, and that was great. And then when we got into the new year, then at some point it was like, okay, we started talking about when could we feasibly do the other 5. They came to basically work the same way as the first one, like pitch something to them, like pitch a story to them. And we had just done Peter on the Mothership as the angel when Sierra had her baby. And, I talked about this a little bit, that originally we didn't know if we could have Peter. Peter lived in New Zealand. When we pitched the devil story, I always had this vision that at the very end, Angel Bo came back to protect Sierra when her baby was born. And the baby would be a boy, it would be named Bo. And we knew that. And we asked if we could possibly have an appearance by Angel Bo, and Albert said it's going to be really difficult because he lives in New Zealand, and with the pandemic and everything and quarantine issues, it seemed like it was going to be impossible. Albert was willing to even try to shoot him in New Zealand and sort of edit it in. But we sort of lucked out that Peter and his wife moved to Alaska, and he was able to come to LA. So when we were shooting that, Albert said to me, trying to make it worth Peter's while, can we maybe do 5 or 7 episodes? And I was like, well, I don't know how many episodes Angel Bo can walk around just visiting all his old friends. His big role was to protect Sierra, see the baby, raise Trip up, and,
back to heaven. Yeah,
I think if he kind of lingered and went to the pub to eat chowder, it would start to kind of dissipate the effect.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we were trying to conceive a story for Beyond Salem. So I said to Albert, can we use, if you want to give him more episodes, would Beyond Salem be the same thing? And he said, well, yeah, there might be some different contractual things, but yes, in theory, you could, because I said that way, if we want to give them 7 shows, we've already done 2 on the main show, the other 5 could be beyond Salem. And so then it says, okay, well then if we have Bo on Beyond Salem, what's the story? Now it has to include hope, like God love Bo, but if you're gonna see Bo, you want to see hope too. So then we started thinking, okay, now we've got Peter, now we need Kristian. So then we approached Kristian, and she was saying, intrigued, but saying, I'd like to know what the story is. So we came up with the story. I had a phone call with Kristian. She's pretty much the only person that knew the story because I pitched the whole story to her. She loved it. She really was very enthusiastic about it and excited about it. And so that's how we kind of built around. It was sort of getting Peter first, then Kristian, then building kind of around that. And then, I'm not giving too much away because it's sort of obvious from the trailer where Bo might be when you first see him. And the issue really was, look, it's May, you've just seen Bo as an angel. In July, if we suddenly pretend he's alive, locked in a South American prison, it doesn't make any sense. Like, who was the guy that just visited Sierra in the hospital? And you can't even say it was like a dream, or Ben was there for the whole thing. So you can't say that wasn't real. So
he's heavenly. He's Bo in heaven.
He's Bo in heaven. And so you'll have to see it, obviously, like here, Bo's in heaven, Hope's on earth. How does it become a Bo and Hope story? Okay. And so I'm excited for the audience to sort of see how we kind of are like gonna mesh those 2 worlds together.
Is the Bo and Hope thing the fuel of the whole thing, the main angle?
It really is the engine that drives it. I mean, it is similar to Beyond Salem 1 in that we went to different cities and there were different stories and they were connected by the gemstones. In this instance, we thought the concept of Beyond Salem just really works well for us because if we try to do a story that's in Salem, it conflicts with what's going on the mothership. So Beyond Salem is the perfect thing because we're in different cities. It's not interfering with what's going on the regular show. So we started to think about, well, what different cities could we do this time? We knew the Johnson kids live in Seattle. We're like, what if Kayla and Steve are visiting? And we know Tripp had just left for Seattle. So we're like, okay, what if it's the Johnsons in Seattle? We had just written, just to save on cast, at Sami and Lucas's wedding. That's just about to air now. We had written to keep the numbers down. Marlena said, oh, John went to visit Paul this weekend in San Francisco.
Oh.
So we're writing Beyond Salem. We're like, perfect. Let's see what John and Paul are up to in San Francisco. So we use them. That was San Francisco. Seattle. Hope is living in Montreal. Then we go to Hong Kong. That's part of a big gala that happens. Then we go to Monte Carlo, which is kind of a little surprise thing that happens. So we built again, it's sort of, you needed a reason, like, okay, why is Steve and Kayla visiting their kids connected to John visiting Paul, connected to Ben and Sierra visiting Hope? What is the thing that's gonna like pull these together? And that's the villain, and that's the, sort of the story.
So how did Steve Burton come into this?
So Steve, right around the same time, Albert came to me and said, I had coffee with Steve Burton, like we had a really good meeting. What would you think about trying to like incorporate him into Days somehow? And so again, I was like, well, how about on Beyond Salem? We were still crafting the story. And he had played a character and I think it was one of his first jobs was on Days as Harris Michaels. So we knew he kind of existed in the Salem universe already. And so then we started to sort of concoct a story for him that kind of does help tie the stories together. I like the idea that he brings fans with him from General Hospital. People might like come and watch Beyond Salem. Like maybe there's General Hospital people that will come to watch him, and I've worked with him before, and he's a great guy, and he's obviously a very good actor. And so I was sort of excited about the possibility of and also using him as something I only wrote for him as Jason. So getting to write him doing something else was cool. And, I was there for a lot of the taping. And so I got to see Steve. I haven't seen him in a really long time. And it was great to see him. And he was just so committed. And so he's such a professional that, he's great with the cast and crew. He knows tons of the crew people from GH or Young and the Restless, and, cast members that he's worked with before, obviously. And he fit in perfectly, and it was like a pleasure. In the trailer, I don't if you see Steve Burton with some different looks, there's a military beret, there's a baseball hat, there's a police uniform. Which is the real Harris Michaels? What is he up to? It's kind of intriguing, and you kind of have to see. I just don't want to give too much away about his character and what he does and what his role is in this.
Or he could be working with.
He could be good. He could be bad. It's a little unclear at the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah. So then you brought back Eileen Davidson, OG Kristen. Is she?
Yeah.
OG? And then Vincent Van Patten, her husband, is now in. So how did that kind of all come together?
So, we loved having Eileen in the first one, and especially with Lisa Rinna, that was kind of great to play the Real Housewives thing. And so we wanted to use Eileen again. And as you'll see, Kristen, between now and July 11th, when this airs, you will see from the main show, it's not exactly available to be floating around the world as she is in Beyond Salem. So we knew where Kristen was when we started writing this. So you'll see when she makes her first appearance, you are like, how can she be here when I know she's over here? But don't forget there's more than one Kristen, technically. There's Stacy, there's Eileen. I'm being a little cagey because it's a little bit of a mystery of how Kristen is on this and what she's doing.
But do we find out through the show Beyond Salem?
You find out, really, yes. I believe it's episode 2. You will know exactly what Eileen Kristen, not Eileen Kristen, but Eileen's Kristen is up to in this. And it's very, very cool. And one thing is we needed a kind of, I don't want to say love interest. We needed a man opposite her in her initial scenes. And so that would just be not someone that we knew. So that was just an actor that we needed to cast. And I don't know if it was me. I might have been me, but I'm not taking credit. I don't remember. I said, what if we asked for her real husband? And so Albert, I believe, asked her, would you want to share scenes with Vince? And she checked with him and ended up saying yes. So it's kind of cool as their real life husband and wife, and then to see what their interaction is on this is pretty amusing.
And Loretta Devine.
Oh yeah.
How did that? Was that somebody you wanted?
So we created a character that's pretty pivotal in this series, and Marnie, our casting director, who's fantastic, gave us a list, like we wanted somebody a little larger than life. And Marnie gave us some people that might be possibilities for this part. And I went, and there were great people on this list. And I'm going down, and then I see Loretta Devine, and I'm like, knowing who the character is and what she does, I was like, she's perfect for this. And now I can't see anybody else but her. This is like a super talented, award-winning actress. So to have somebody of that caliber interact with our characters was so great. And I know her from so many things, from Grey's Anatomy and just so many other like movies. And she just brings like a warmth, a humor, even like a strength. And so she's so great in this that I just can't wait for people to see her.
More enjoyable because I think when you're packing 5 episodes and it moves so fast and there's so much story to be told, is this more enjoyable as a writer or more daunting? Because I thought the first one was so great.
Yeah.
I just, I loved it. I was like, just all of the nods back to the history and the way you created it and the way it kept moving and you didn't like constrain yourself with, you went there with the LGBTQ character, like it was more a fulfilled show that felt more modern in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. It's the easy part. It's like, look, we're like, oh, it's only 5 and you get to end it in 5 and you don't think like, oh, what do we do next? What do we do next? What do we do next? This, it's self-contained but it makes it also very difficult. It's like, how do you tell a story that's satisfying with multiple characters that starts? It's just like picture a regular week of our show.
Right.
Story has to start on a Monday and completely be over with by Friday. So it's a lot. It's like turning the Titanic. You gotta start, establish all the cities, establish the story, move it along, and then bring it to a climax, And, once you get into the rhythm, and we did figure it out, but it's definitely, the first episode kind of, you're like, okay, I got this. And then you get to the second one and it gets harder. You get to the third one, it gets harder. And then by the time you get to the fourth one, at least you're kind of like driving to the conclusion. But this one, it's funny. It does have the same globe-trotting thing going with it, right? But because it has a little more of a grand sweeping romance because of Beau and Hope. It has a supernatural quality that the other one doesn't have. It just has a different vibe. The other one had drag queens and Lisa Rinna impersonators, and this has a different tone, but it's still like a fun adventure. It's a lot of love and romance. It's still got the old school villain and the old school type storyline. So it hits a lot of the same marks as the first one, but there's a lot of new stuff here.
And you did put in Steve and Kayla, John and Marlena, Ben and Sierra, like your mainstay couples are sprinkled.
Yeah, like you gotta deliver John and Marlena, you gotta have, it's great to have Beau and Hope, but you want your tentpole people. And and Steve and Kayla, I said to Steve and Mary Beth, like when we did the first one, it was just like, we just started throwing this thing together and we couldn't have everybody. You can only fit so many people in 5 shows. And then when you got to the Christmas special, we wanted to change up some of the characters, but Steve and Kayla didn't quite fit into that. And they were so great, like promoting it. They promoted the first one on social. And I just said, there's no way we're doing the third one without Steve and Kayla. So it was great to see their family. It was great to have another super couple on there.
Did you help cast the Joey and Stephanie replacement? Abigail and Tanner?
Yeah. We had great people again for that. Marnie found great people. We wanted again to the way we used Beyond Salem as a way to introduce a new Sunny. We thought this is a way to introduce a new Joey or a new Stephanie. And the audience at this point knows some people might that are on this might be appearing on I mean, it's not a spoiler to say Stephanie is going to end up on the Mothership, and possibly even other people. We knew we wanted the character of Stephanie to come to the Mothership, and
Shelley Henning wasn't available.
yeah, so Shelley wasn't available, so we started looking for someone. When we did Beyond Salem and we were starting with this reunion of the family in Seattle, I was trying to get Shelley for one episode. And so that it would be the original Stephanie, the family reunites. There is something that happens where Stephanie gets out of commission. And by the time you get to the last one, there would be an unveiling where it was a new actress. And she's like, well, I guess it's a whole new me. And it was sort of setting her up
for this.
She would, essentially it never happened, so I'm not spoiling anything. The bandages would come off. We would only need Shelley to do the first one. And then we would see Abigail Klein when the bandages came off at the end. So the audience got to see the original Stephanie and the introduction of the new Stephanie. And then it turned out, I think it's like, is it Teen Wolf? It's a movie that Shelley's doing that conflicted. We couldn't get her for it. So we did away with the bandages. We introduced the new Stephanie in a different way from the get-go on this.
So, and then Christopher Sean, you got back.
Yes. And again, we had already said John's visiting Paul. So we had to cross our fingers that Christopher was interested and wanted to do it, because we had we wanted to do father-son scenes in San Francisco. That was great. And some new characters that come in. We have Andrew Donovan.
Yes, this is great.
Yeah, we have Wendy Shin. So it's fun because you're able to, we got to see some old faces and we got to introduce some new people.
And so will all of them eventually be on days?
Well, I don't want to say too much or promise, but now that they're established, it's always possible. Some people I know for a fact you're going to see. Others, it's sort of, we may.
Let's talk about Days of Our Lives for a minute. So on the Mothership, I understand the whole situation with Marci. So you lost your Abigail, but that was a situation, kind of like a no-win situation for you in terms of from the show's perspective.
Yeah.
Now this frees up Chad.
Right.
So potentially maybe Stephanie for Chad. I'm just thinking. I don't know where you're going to go with it, but is that help that you freed him up?
Yeah, look, you couldn't. If let's just say Abigail went and took a job in Paris or something, and they're just happily married. It's like, yes, you can't say that Chad can't be involved in stories, but he basically is happily married to his wife that doesn't live in Salem, and it does kind of tie your hands to tell any kind of story moving forward with him. And we did not rush him into any love story. We tried to make it a very realistic story of a guy mourning his wife. And right now he's driven by solving her murder. So that takes him, several weeks and weeks into this year. Obviously, eventually you want him to build friendships or romances, but we just didn't want to rush that. We wanted to give our due to Abigail. So really it was, short of killing her, the only other option was to recast her. And we really didn't want to do that. We love Marci. She was a successful recast. You don't know if the third time is going to be the charm. And so as much as that's a familiar character, we didn't want a new face and a new Abigail right now. We thought it was a more powerful story to play Chad losing his wife than to just introduce a new Abigail,
Go down the road to do a murder mystery. Is that something you like to do, or is that a big headache?
It can be a headache, but I do like to do it.
Okay. As a writer, you go through it, at the beginning, you're like, this is going to be great. But middle of it, you're like, oh God, how do I get out of this?
Yeah. I used to call it there was a story that was a head writer I worked for at One Life to Live, and we were doing some murder mystery. And it was one of these things because they are tricky, you know, because if you haven't figured out every suspect ahead of time, which we don't have a lot of time to do, sometimes you just start throwing new red herrings and clues at the audience, like, now, okay. And I used to call it buttons and bows, because like they'd find a button on the floor, and then a week later, oh, what's this? It's a matchbook. You know, we just making up new clues that lead you to a new suspect. So I used to call it buttons and bows, like, and so you don't want to get into that situation where you're like, okay, what button or bow are we going to throw at the audience this week? It helps to kind of have an idea of where it's going. Of course, just at the pace that we go, it's not like writing a novel where I can sit down and plot and plan every suspect and when we're going to eliminate them. You kind of have a general idea. We knew who our suspects would be, and we knew that we could unfold some other ones as we go. You know, there were some that were very obvious, you know, like
your end game. Did you know your end game, who your murderer was?
Yes, though I will say we had one idea at the beginning and we did change our mind, but we changed it very early on. So this is not going to seem
unseamless. It's
that
like,
but we just, our original concept, we realized we had a better idea and we massaged it a little bit. And that's a trick. It's like, you want it to be someone significant. You don't want it to seem like a ripoff. You don't want it to seem like, oh, it was this U5 character that we've never seen before as the killer, you know?
Right. And then does it end up like, then do you go, if it is somebody, let's just say a character that is a good guy or a good person, or what, then do you go, oh God, now we do a courtroom trial?
Right.
Or you just want to go like, we're just going to do a murder, and then the murder is revealed and that's it?
No, it's like, that's tricky because it could be, you know, sometimes like those are great stories, you know, when some character goes, usually a lot of times it's the wrong person on trial that didn't do it. But yes, we did have a concept. It does unfold. You know, we focus in on someone, maybe they get eliminated. You kind of realize, wait a second, here's another suspect over here. I love like the whodunit aspect, you know, and it makes it more powerful when it's Abigail. If let's say it's like Abigail, someone beloved that we love, if we killed off a villain or someone you hate, those can be great because it's easy to come up with a million suspects, like, oh, everybody wanted the person dead. But then you're also like, well, why did the cops, we hate this person, why are they trying to find the killer so badly? I mean, yes, it's their job, but you know, why are we hounding, you know, Marlena over the death of somebody so horrible or whatever? So it kind of helps that it's a good person. You want the murderer caught.
Right. Does this go on for more months?
It moves along. I will say it's not over tomorrow. It's not over next week. But the story continues to move along. We focus on.
Are you 5 months ahead?
I am writing late January right now, I think.
Oh, but what we're seeing on air, so in other words, what we're seeing on air, was that taped 5 months ago?
Yeah, at least.
Okay. So with Lamon and Sal's exit, that was something that you knew a while ago, that happened a while ago.
Yeah. Again, those were things, unfortunately, it was like sort of happening at the same time. Like, oh, we just killed off Abigail. Now we're writing off Lamon, you know, where some of it was because people's contracts were coming up all at the same time because everybody re-upped after the show got renewed or whatever. So a lot of people's deals started at the same time, ended at the same time. Not everyone, but it just kind of worked out that way, that all of a sudden Eli and Lonnie were leaving, Abigail was leaving, Ben and Sierra were leaving. So it could feel like a little bit of a mass exodus, but like I urge the audience, I know that some of these are your favorites or whatever, but there's plenty of story. You know, we have more characters than we know what to do with sometimes. And the show continues to just move along. But that was tough. I mean, Eli and Lonnie are they've been such a successful pairing for us. I love the representation, not to put like all of that on them. They're a great couple just in and of themselves, but like it was great to build the African-American family, to introduce Paulina, Chanel, then to lose them out of that, luckily we can still, we still have Chanel in a major story. We have Paulina, we have Abe. We have a new detective coming in who's African-American. But it was hard to lose Eli and Lonnie. Look, Lamon has been getting so much other, I'm sure he's like on a CW show. He's been getting a lot of work, so it was hard to work around him. He was off contract. It was becoming really difficult to do. Sal decided she too wanted to be recurring and wanted to try other stuff. And it's just made sense to exit the couple, at least just for now, No one dies.
No one dies in Salem. With Ben and Sierra, they're written off.
Ben and Sierra exit Salem, and then they sail away, and then they sail into Montreal the following Monday. So that was another toughie. It was like you're balancing, giving one couple, okay, this one can go off into the sunset together. This one, we decided we're going to kill Abigail and give Chad the story of losing his spouse. Eli and Lonnie, it's a mixture of not a totally happily ever after, but not a death, but with a hope that comes with that. I mean, what I loved about the Eli and Lonnie story is that Lonnie did the right thing. What I loved is that while everyone was willing to lie for her, I think got back to the integrity of Lonnie's bent the rules many times as a cop. We got back to the integrity of this character, that she was not going to let anybody take the blame for her. And I think that was like very powerful for her to stand up and say, I'm taking responsibility. I saw some people going, well, he was terrible. What did she do wrong? I'm like, well, she shot an unarmed man, and she's a police officer. I mean, she really did kill him without cause, because she could have just said, you're under arrest. He was unarmed. He did horrible things, but she did not have the right to kill him.
I was going to ask you the decision you made that we were seeing on air with EJ and Belle and all of that. Where did you get the impetus to do that? Was great, because obviously that really puts a whole story between the two sisters.
Right.
Okay. Is that where that came from, or did you see?
Yeah. I mean, we did see that there was it was an interesting pairing. Like, it's not something you would think right away. But she's been his lawyer. We had started to have them interact because she was a lawyer for Demera. Then she was his lawyer when he allegedly kidnapped Sami. And so we started to do it. And then we were like, what if we built something there? And we knew obviously at some point we were going to bring Sami and Lucas back, because we had to blow up the secret that Lucas kidnapped Sami. So we started to build it like, how great would it be if Belle and EJ are on the brink of sleeping together, just as Sami's coming back and probably about to find out that Lucas is the kidnapper and EJ's innocent.
And marrying him, and marrying her kidnapper.
Right, exactly. She's marrying her own kidnapper.
Yeah, I mean, you always seem to set up Allison with these great stories. And I think she really likes the stuff you give her.
I've been super lucky because she's such a big character, and she'd left the show, and to woo her back, and she doesn't have to come here. I mean, she's got tons of projects and things on the outside. So, we pushed for Sami because we were bringing Will back from the dead, but I've just been very lucky. I've tried to write true to Sami. I try to make her somebody that will kind of do anything and get away with it, and push the envelope with her. Allison, knock on wood, has been very appreciative and really collaborative, and seems to love what I've written for her. I'm always like, when am I going to stumble? And she's going to be like, actually, I hate this. But it hasn't happened yet.
What did you think of the tribute to John Aniston on the Emmys?
It was great. I mean, unfortunately, I don't know how much John was supposed to be there and scheduled to be there. And then he was sick and couldn't come. And that was kind of at the last minute. So I know he was excited to receive it in person. So that was the one sad thing, that we couldn't all see him get the award, but it was great to have Jennifer, his daughter, to get to see the video. I thought Suzanne did just a beautiful job. Yeah.
Was the part, it wasn't to me Jennifer, it was that was the part that at least made it somewhat emotional.
It was. I sat with Suzanne and she, sorry, there's like bugs flying around her. She looked fantastic. She was so poised up there. You know, you really felt like the history of Days of Our Lives with like, I mean, she got a standing ovation when she got up there, you know. And then the clips of him were so great. The only thing that was missing for me is one that's been going around recently where he walks across the room, pushes Nicole out the window. That I wish that had been on there. At least I got something that it was from my tenure when he said, "Did somebody order a hooker?" when Cassie comes to the door.
Yeah, that was great. That was.
I mean, he's so. I mean, at his age, still delivering like those zingers like nobody else.
Like nobody else. He's the best at that. If you were to say in a broad stroke coming up over the remainder of the summer on days, what would you say is kind of like is it more this, that, and that? Like, what would you say?
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny because like I just did the summer preview, but of course it's like out of my head, like what happens. But like the murder mystery is huge. The playoff of Abigail's death is very big. We have the who will Chanel choose between Johnny and Allie, which has been really cool to do this bisexual love triangle. You know, we play it we don't play it out too long. She makes the choice and it forces us to kind of spin the odd man or woman out towards somebody new. There's a lot of other stuff going on that's just probably like escaping me right now, but oh well, a lot of drama with Nicole marrying Rafe, and with Eric suddenly a possibility he's out of the priesthood. You know, will Nicole stick to her guns and stay married to Rafe? Is she drawn to Eric? Who will we move Eric on toward? You know, what happens to EJ and Belle after Sami comes to town? There's a lot of really good stuff. There is a major, I could tease, another major character is going to be killed.
Another major character to be killed.
Is going to be killed like in the fairly near future.
And does that mean they're killed or will they be back in a month?
Killed.
Okay.
Killed. And it leads to big story, not a murder mystery. It leads to a big story.
And was that a decision you made?
Yes.
Okay. So it wasn't like I'm going off to do a show and I got to leave.
No.
Okay.
So
that's a good one to leave everyone to ponder.
It's not Marlena, I'll just say.
It's not Marlena. Wasn't thinking it was her. I in a kind of rapid fire thing, I have some questions for you to end this with. What is, just tell me this. So rapid fire, whatever comes to mind. You know soap operas, you know soaps. And I want to know from you, what is one of your all-time favorite storylines on any show? What is your vote? Give me one that you just absolutely love. Like I love Vicky's DID. What do you love? Like, give me a story, whether you wrote it or not.
Okay. Like what? How about on Knots Landing when Belle's babies got taken and then she eventually got them back?
The best. To me, that was the best. The best cliffhanger with her turning around and the baby. Yeah.
No, I'll go try to find it on YouTube just so I can watch it, and I just like start crying.
And when I interviewed, did you see my interview with the three of them?
I saw the photo, definitely. I don't know if I saw the whole.
Watch the interview.
Oh, really?
Because I played back that scene to them, and we do Val's the baby, and the cliffhanger, and to watch her watching it with me, Joan and Michelle, and they're getting so emotional, and then they talk about it, and I get their real-time reaction watching back that scene.
That's amazing.
I'll send you the link.
That's amazing.
So I agree with you on that. All right. So now, what is one of your all-time favorite soap opera characters on any show?
All-time favorite characters on any show.
I mean, is it
I mean, I'm obviously partial to Vicky on One Life to Live. She was like somebody that I just grew. I mean, especially like Vicky and Dorian, that rivalry is like part of like why I love soap operas, I think, but there's something about Vicky. It's like you felt like she was your mother. You know what I'm saying? Like you just felt like and Erica just brought like all of that to the character, and it was like super fun to be able to write for her. But like, I also like the crazy characters. I love like a Heather Weber or a Lucy Coe or a Roxy Balsam, Mitch Lawrence, like all those like over the top people are really fun to write for too.
So who went in your travels as who you are in Daytime, of like the Erica Slazak or anybody, who were you most like fanning over? Like who was like the person you met and you were the most excited? Who was it? Who were you just like, oh my God, I can't believe I just met?
I mean, look, it's like, it's not, there's so obviously tons. Like when I got to One Life to Live and it's like, suddenly I work there. It's like you walk in the door and like, there's Bo, there's Nora, there's Vicky, there's Dory, it's pretty amazing. Like, I would say like, with General Hospital, it was like old school, like people, like I grew up like to see Finola, like to meet Finola Hughes that played Anna Devane. Like I was like, and I was like in love with her. Like, I saw her the other night and I'm like, you look the same. She still does something to me. She's just, because she's so iconic, from that era when I was watching, when I met Andrea Evans, because I love Tina, I'm like, that was so great. And she's lovely,
Right.
Yeah. So many of them really, but like, definitely there's ones where like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm seeing so-and-so.
Is there a scene that you remember, the Knots Landing one, but is there a scene like you go, or even if you've written one, you're like, oh my God, these two actors just killed this scene? Is it like Vicky Dorian? Is it like,
yeah. I was just looking back because I was like cleaning out files on my computer and like trying to I was on the plane coming back and I was like, is there any stuff I could delete? And I have like a little One Life to Live file and I'm looking through and I was looking at the outlines from Ace's funeral and so I opened it up and I was like reading through it and it was like, I can picture the episode as I'm going through it because it was like super emotional and that was like some of the favorite stuff like that I ever wrote, like there's a scene where like Clint and Vicky are waiting at the airport and like Kevin and Joey and Cord come off in slow motion off of the plane. And like, it's unbelievable. It's so good. And we got Nathan Fillion. It was like,
right.
it was like amazing.
I mean, there were so many moments on One Life. And then like, I heard I know you've talked about it, like being tasked to write the last show on ABC.
Yeah. No, those shows. I can remember one thing that I especially love just off the top of my head was something where Vicky had to break through to Jessica when she had the DID. And so we did this scene where Jessica had to be told your baby died. And that was the thing that was going to like break through to her. And she was locked in the bedroom and Vicky went in as Jean Randolph, but it was really Vicky. And she had these scenes with Bess, but it was really getting her to like trying to tell her, Jessica, your baby died. And there's this moment where she says, it's like, kind of like, it's time to let go of this armor. And she reaches up to take the glasses off of Jessica. And Jessica she says no, she tries to stop her because she knows what's about to happen. And it's like, it like cuts into my heart. And then she tries to stop her, but then she insists and she pulls the glasses off of her, takes the hair down. And Jessica has to remember, like those scenes I thought were absolutely killer.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean, there were so many great ones on One Life to Live.
Yeah.
Really, really great. You have to look back on that and be like, I mean, it was such a special show.
Yeah, completely.
In every way.
Yeah.
And I felt it never got its proper due. And I always felt it was the best show.
Yeah.
You and I met, and I was just like, this is the greatest show. Like, it was
No,
just,
we got to do some really fun, great stuff on that show. Like it was, it was like, and it was my first, it was my first show. That it was a great experience, and it was a lot. It was to write the ending after 43 years and write these people off. It's like one satisfying part is you got to wrap up some people, like John and Natalie can finally be together, or Todd and Blair, or whatever. You don't have to constantly think of the next obstacle. It was really satisfying to pay off, let Jessica be Clint's biological child, like that stuff.
how'd you feel about Jerry Verdorn passing? That was so sad.
That's so sad, because he's just such a lovely guy. Yeah, I was like we got very lucky, because you think like Clint was kind of an irreplaceable guy, and we, similarly, like look at Edward Quartermain. Like, it's a character they had more than one successful. If you were like when I was a kid, you couldn't imagine replacing Edward Quartermain. But John Ingle was such an amazing Edward too. And then, but Jerry was such a great Clint. He came in, when we made Clint bad, he was great. And yeah, that was really sad.
One last thing I was going to say, what was interesting about the night, what I thought about Emmy night, was there were the One Life to Live guys. Frank Valentini wins, Ron wins, and you guys were the original, those two guys on One Life to Live that, made that show go to what it was, through that last part of its historic run.
Right.
And so winning your Emmys and going on to other things. And I was wondering what you thought about, that's what struck me about that night. It was like, oh, look at Frank, look at Ron. They're still,
Yeah, I went, it was right afterwards where they had this reception at the venue. I was like going to get something to eat, and I'm walking this way and he's walking this way with his Emmy in his hand, and we just kind of bumped right into each other. So, that was kind of like a surreal moment. I mean, we were partners for a really long time, and then to just, be able to kind of like share that moment together was really nice.
Yeah. All right. Well, so much going on with you. Days of Our Lives, Beyond Salem, Chapter 2, July 11th through July 15th on Peacock. We're really excited to see that. Continued success with Days of Our Lives. I'm so happy that you got another Emmy for writing. And I know it's a lot, like you've got a lot that you're dealing with, but it's so enjoyable, and the fans love the show. So
I mean, it's kind of great, because it's like, you're just coming down from the high of the Emmys, but now we've got the Beyond Salem about to drop.
It keeps going, so you don't think it's great.
Yeah, it's really great.
Your time. It's good to see you.
Thank you so much, Michael.